Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, April 22nd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A fatal officer-involved shooting that prompted a protest in Escondido is now the subject of an external investigation and has the mayor, police chief, and faith leaders speaking out. And as KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne tells us, there is also a renewed call tonight to release the body cam video leading up to the deadly confrontation.
We still don't know the name of the man shot by Escondido police officers on Wednesday morning. They had responded to a call of a man hitting cars with a metal object near the intersection of 2nd Avenue and Broadway. Escondido Police Chief Ed Varso provided more details on the incident.
The male immediately advanced on the officer while holding the same metal tool in a threatening manner. The officer gave multiple commands to drop the tool, as well as several use of force warnings. The male continued to advance on the officer, who was backing away, and he was ultimately shot.
The suspect was transferred to a local hospital and later pronounced dead. Varso says they believe he was homeless and someone the police department had encountered many times.
We don't know the individual for certain. The name has not been released yet. Based off the description, we can be very certain that the individual was a part of receiving some basic needs services here.
Greg Angel is the CEO of Interfaith Services, an organization offering supportive services to homeless people in North County. Angel said breakfast at the Interfaith Escondido cafeteria this morning was somber.
People who are living on the streets right now, who were here this morning receiving basic needs services, understood that they lost a member of their community yesterday, and they're scared about what's going to happen to them and their friends and others.
Being in the front lines of supportive services to the homeless community in North County, Angel says this incident highlights the need for more resources.
If we had more mental health resources to help people before they're in crisis, we can much more effectively connect people to help before crisis occurs.
Police Chief Varso said portions of the body cam footage will be released as the case takes the investigative process. Escondido Mayor Paul McNamara said he's glad the investigation will also be looked at by external parties to help determine progress needed in police training and homeless outreach.
To get to the right answer, I think we need to make sure we don't conflate things and that we look at this in a very objective fashion so that we can really discover what failures, that if we have any in the process, in our training, in addressing our homeless and addressing those with mental health issues.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Hundreds of mourners gathered for Dante Wright's funeral in Minneapolis today. The 20-year-old was shot and killed by a police officer during a traffic stop, while Derek Chauvin's murder trial was taking place just miles away. Wright's mother spoke at his service, saying her son should be burying her instead.
My son had a smile that was worth $1 million. When he walked in the room, he lit up the room. He was a brother, a jokester. He was loved by so many. He's going to be so missed.
Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota also spoke at the funeral, calling for the passage of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act to ensure true justice. The bill would ban chokeholds and qualified immunity for law enforcement at the federal level.
On this vote,
in a rare bipartisan vote, the Senate has passed legislation to combat the rise of hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. It would expedite the review of hate crimes and provide support for local law enforcement in response to thousands of reported violent incidents in the past year. The House is expected to consider a similar bill. 12% of all of San Diego County's child care providers closed down due to the pandemic. And now the Child Care Providers Union says the state needs to invest more to make sure child care should be available for everyone, not just the fortunate few. KPBS reporter Christina Kim has more.
Are you with us? Yeah! Are you with us, California? Yeah!
Local child care providers say more state dollars are needed to ensure that California's youngest and most vulnerable people are cared for. Johanna Puno Hester, vice chair of the Child Care Providers United Union, says everyone who needs child care should get it.
We need structural change to ensure every family has access to quality, affordable child care. We need to get rid of every child care desert here in California.
Child care deserts are areas where the demand for child care is greater than the number of providers. More than half of all Californians lived in a child care desert before the pandemic. That number has only grown during the past year. In San Diego County, 535 child care providers have closed their doors.
I have parents that don't even make it through my interview process. I have to turn them away because our program is currently full.
Shantae Brown is a San Diego child care provider near College area. She says families will continue to live in poverty unless there's a real push to end child care deserts in places like East County and South Bay.
I believe that people won't be able to go to work. I believe people won't be able to further their education. And I also believe that children will suffer. That's what will happen at the bottom line.
Earlier this week, Child Care Providers United, which represents 40,000 child providers in California, reached an agreement with Governor Gavin Newsom for $25 million to expand child care capacity. This includes fee waivers and helping shuttered providers reopen. Union leaders and child care providers say they are grateful for this investment, but want to see a continued commitment to building an equitable child care system. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
Both the Cal State and UC system now say they intend to require all students, faculty, and staff to be fully vaccinated before returning to campus next fall. Pending FDA approval, university officials say the planned requirement will be discussed with faculty and student representatives, along with labor groups. They say the need for full vaccinations is the best way to ensure the safety of everyone involved. They are expected, however, to allow for exemptions based on medical or religious grounds. It's been less than 2 weeks since San Diego Unified began modified in-person instruction. And as KPBS education reporter Joe Hong shows us, some schools are already seeing more students than they expected.
When San Diego Unified brought students back to campuses for part-time in-person learning on April 12th, it did so under an agreement with a teachers union that class sizes be limited to ensure 5 feet of social distancing among students to prevent COVID spread. Yet the demand has been so great at some schools that students have had to be sent to overflow rooms. Union President Keisha Borden says renegotiating the agreement would take too long and hinted that it might mean the district will have to reduce the number of in-person instruction days at these schools.
It wasn't just SDEA saying this must be the distancing. This was an agreement between the teachers and the district. So it wasn't just us pushing for this number, it was what was agreed to between both parties.
But since that agreement was made, the National Centers for Disease Control and Prevention announced that students are safe with 3 feet of distancing, which means class sizes could be larger. Rebecca Fielding Miller is a public health professor at UC San Diego. She backed the CDC's recommendation, saying more students can be in classrooms as long as ventilation and other safety protocols are in place.
Masking, making sure students are masking, making sure as many teachers are vaccinated as possible and making that accessible, opening doors and windows, everything, good hand hygiene, everything that they should be doing already at 5 feet is exactly what they should be doing at 3 feet.
District officials are exploring other alternatives. School Board President Richard Barrera said some teachers have moved their classrooms to larger spaces on campus or are rotating students through the overflow rooms.
Having spaces on campus where students can be there, either again, larger spaces working directly with their teacher or learning labs, which they'll allow all students to be on campus 4 days a week and then rotate, we think is a better solution, than limited to 2 days a week.
Joe Hong, KPBS News.
It's Earth Day, and 40 world leaders are joining President Joe Biden for a virtual 2-day climate summit focused on cutting greenhouse emissions while creating jobs across all sectors. As Steve Nannis reports, Biden is opening the summit with an ambitious goal.
President Joe Biden addressing day one of a virtual climate summit.
No nation can solve this crisis on our own. Scientists tell us that this is the decisive decade.
And making a giant promise, committing the U.S. to cutting its 2005 emission levels by 50 to 52% by 2030 and creating millions of jobs by doing it. 40 other world leaders are participating in the summit, many making big pledges of their own.
Our new climate target for 2030 is to reduce our 2005 emission levels by 40 to 45%.
We will strictly control coal-fired power generation projects. We will strictly limit the increase in coal consumption.
President Biden and I are launching the India-US Climate and Clean Energy Agenda 2030 partnership.
Biden has made climate change an essential part of U.S. foreign policy and national security since taking office. He quickly re-entered the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, which former President Donald Trump pulled the U.S. out of. And with this White House summit, Biden showing again how important the issue is to his administration.
We're looking for other countries to make big commitments as well. That's what this big, bold, but achievable commitment from the president today is going to help us do.
In Washington, Steve Nannis, KPBS News.
The journey to a greener San Diego continues for Mayor Todd Gloria, who announced a new pilot program that will use solar power to charge the city's electric vehicles. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel shows us the new charging stations that will make it possible.
We have police vehicles, fire engines, trash trucks, parking enforcement.
4,000 city vehicles and counting. Only 20 in the city's fleet are electrical vehicles, and they will be the driving force for San Diego's latest pilot program that aims to improve air quality, all while saving taxpayer money.
Transportation is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, and so to really map how the city moves and to find the ways that we can drive down emissions, this is also a part of this budget.
Mayor Todd Gloria says he's committed to transitioning the city's gas-powered vehicles to electric vehicles.
I'm extremely optimistic that this pilot is going to prove not just a savings for taxpayers, but really help our city meet our ambitious climate action plan goals.
According to city officials, San Diego spends $6 million on fuel every year. They're hoping to cut that cost as the city transitions to solar-powered vehicles. The city has partnered up with the San Diego-based company Beam Global for this project. The company's CEO, Desmond Wheatley, is confident the city will meet its goal towards a cleaner San Diego.
The one thing they'll never generate is a utility bill. So these vehicles will drive on sunshine for free for their entire lives, which is obviously a very important aspect of it.
So far, the city has purchased 2 of the company's electric vehicle autonomous chargers for $155,000, which includes the first year of operation and maintenance. Wheatley hopes to eventually deploy more EV charging stations across San Diego, making it possible for San Diegans to charge their electrical vehicles for free. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
On this Earth Day, a reminder that what we put into this world is what we get back out of it. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer shows us the efforts to clean up San Diego's coastal areas.
Earth Day is a time to reflect upon the environments we live in and bring awareness to any issues of the world's natural beauty. In San Diego County, that often revolves around the health of the ocean. Over the past few days, some San Diego County organizations have been cleaning up state beaches and parks in coastal areas to reduce the greatest pollutant in U.S. beaches and waterways, cigarette butts. Nancy Rocha of Vista Community Clinic was picking up trash from tobacco products at Cardiff State Beach in Encinitas on Earth Day.
Tobacco waste can be anything from tobacco, cigarette butts, to packaging, electronic cigarettes, vaping devices, pods, wrappers, any of that sort. Cigars, anything tobacco, that's what we're looking for.
The cleanup teams are collecting data on cigarette trash by location as well. Dana Stevens of Community Action, Service and Advocacy, or CASA, says that's because a bill passed in California in 2019, which bans smoking, including the use of e-cigarettes, at all state parks and beaches.
The problem with tobacco waste is that it's not biodegradable, and it contains poisonous contaminants in it that seep into the environment and contaminate the waterways.
While tobacco products are a major pollutant, Rocha says the COVID pandemic has increased other types of waste on San Diego state beaches and parks.
Definitely, there's been an uptake of face masks. That's something that we have been finding a lot more often.
Traditional cigarettes are by far the most littered objects at beaches, but Stevens says e-cigarettes and marijuana products are also part of the problem, in addition to other garbage and forgotten belongings. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The Tijuana River Valley is frequently swamped with sewage-tainted water, but those cross-border flows also carry trash into an ecologically sensitive region. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says people on both sides of the border are working to get the trash problem under control.
Chris Peregrine walks down a gentle slope in Goat Canyon, just north of the U.S.-Mexico border. He points to a thick steel cable that spans the basin that the cross-border flows frequently fill.
Yeah, we have an anchor on either side, and then a heavy-duty cable that connects the trash boom and lets it span across the entire sediment basin.
The trash boom is fencing that's designed to stop everything that floats. There are tires here and there, but plastics dominate the trash. Single-use plastic bottles pile up near the barrier, but that's not all.
We're also seeing quite a bit of foam, and you can see that there's a couple different types of foam here. This is a typical polystyrene, but then also we see a lot of this type of insulation type foam.
The trash boom was installed in 2005 to keep sediment and the garbage from fouling the nearby Tijuana River estuary.
We're about a half mile away from an area that has saltwater influence of the estuary right now.
If the sand and trash were allowed to flow unchecked into that area, it could completely choke off the ability of the habitat to function.
That mixing, that saltwater coming in on high tide and going out on the low tide, and that saltwater mixing with the fresh water of the Tijuana River is what makes this place so biologically diverse and so special.
Peregrine says state officials allow the plastics and sediments to accumulate, and then they bring in heavy equipment to remove the trash and scrape off a layer of sediment. The battle against the trash is also being waged in a Tijuana community that's about a mile south of the border.
It's basically a canyon where people have settled. And it goes all the way up, and it has three different names: Los Laureles, and then Alacranes, and Las Flores. It's one tributary.
Faye Crevichet of Wild Coast says an international grant allowed the community there to build a trash boom inside a concrete sediment collector. The idea is to stop the garbage from even reaching the United States.
It's stopping the sediment and trash that comes floating with the water and also underwater. But we don't stop the water. The water continues to flow down to the Tijuana River. But that way, all these plastics and waste tires and stuff doesn't go to the river and from there to the ocean.
Wild Coast's Rosario Norazagarre is helping organize the effort in Mexico. She trades small food items for plastics in an effort to create an economic incentive to pick up the trash. And they urge the community members to protect themselves if they go into the concrete collector.
Sí. Yes. Per the rules, per the protocol, the team that arrives to work specifically in the area of the desander must wear safety equipment.
She's teaching the community how to manage the trash boom, but that's only part of the equation.
The community has to raise awareness regarding such a change of habits, a change in behaviors, and how they are currently handling their waste and how it directly creates a contamination problem in the estuary.
Even with those efforts, the estuary on the U.S. side of the border remains under assault. Every time it rains, trash flows down the Tijuana River Valley, the main channel, as Peregrine calls it.
There's no formal facility here to capture trash. So in Goat Canyon, we can clean the trash out of an area with heavy equipment, but when you come to an area like this that's currently supporting nesting species right in amongst these trash flows, it becomes very challenging to clean up.
And while the trash is tough to clean up in the thick riparian habitat, it doesn't necessarily stay here in the heavy brush near Dairy Mart Road.
It's going to start making its way further downstream. As it makes its way downstream, it breaks up into smaller and smaller pieces, and ultimately it's working its way out into the environment in the ocean.
Peregrine hopes that a combination of efforts around the estuary and in Mexico will help reduce the amount of trash that finds its way into the valley. And keeping this trash out of this delicate habitat could go a long way toward allowing it to be the natural refuge it is intended to be. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The Padres begin a big series in Los Angeles against the Dodgers tonight. And come Saturday, vaccinated Dodger fans can now sit in a special section so long as they show proof it's been 2 weeks since their final vaccine dose. The section will still require face coverings, but no social distancing. It's also open to kids 2 to 15 years old who can show a negative COVID test within the past 72 hours. The Padres and Giants previously announced such sections. In a break from other Southern California theme parks, Seaworld will allow out-of-state visitors who are vaccinated. The park says they can do so under newly revised state COVID-19 guidelines. For now, nearby Legoland is restricting visitation to only California residents, as are Universal Studios Hollywood and Disneyland.
We've had quite a few clouds stick around over the past few days, and guess what? We still get another day tomorrow that's largely cloudy, but it is going to be a bit brighter for the weekend as sunshine starts to break in. However, next storm system isn't too far away. Monday, we could possibly see the return of some showers. Notice, though, the clouds really socked in on the coast overnight. San Diego, even maybe a spotty bit of drizzle out there as we hit 58 for the low. Mount Laguna 42 and Borrego Springs coming in at 56. Futurecast shows the next couple of hours, yet plenty of clouds out there. They don't really go anywhere. In fact, they just thicken as we head through the night, much as our marine layers often do. And that's going to continue into tomorrow morning. So you can see inland locations brighter, but towards the coast we'll keep those clouds. Your Friday forecast, though, otherwise pretty pleasant, especially through most of the southwest, much of Nevada, California looking pretty good. It's cooler through the interior as one storm system departs, but we will be talking about another one as we head into Monday. Before we get there, though, tomorrow's forecast closing out the work week, we definitely will be at least starting with a good amount of morning clouds. I think that sticks on into the early afternoon. Could we get some pockets of sunshine towards the later afternoon? Possibly, but notice temperatures climbing to the mid-60s. San Diego 65, 66 in Escondido, and Chula Vista 64. Working our way into Saturday, well, there's that other storm system, slow to arrive as it pushes its way through the northwest first. Eventually, again, we'll see it as we go towards Monday, which is why we could have a few showers heading into Monday. Again, just the spotty chance of a shower towards the coast. Otherwise, the weekend holding on to the mid-60s. Working our way to the inland locations, looking pretty good for the weekend. Bit brighter as we head through Sunday with highs near 70 degrees. Still, though, that chance of rain could be possible heading into Monday, and that's going to be true for the mountains as we hit 37 for the high on Monday, much cooler than our time in the 50s through the weekend. And the deserts, well, we're looking pretty good here as we keep things fairly dry the next couple of days. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
Today, the first female recruits to train in San Diego officially became Marines. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh was there as they finished the most grueling part of boot camp.
They call it the Reaper, the tallest point at Camp Pendleton. Hiking it is the end of the Crucible, a 54-hour-long, nearly non-stop exercise. The first platoon of female recruits in San Diego history scaled it in full pack along with the 5 male platoons of Lima Company. Senior drill instructor Staff Sergeant Amber Starosik spoke to each history-making recruit as she handed them a pin with the eagle, globe, and anchor, the official symbol of the Marine Corps. They were now Marines.
I am proud of you. Look at me on this. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Like many in the platoon, Ramey Aldridge of Texas cried, partly from joy, but also from pain. She had been diagnosed with bone fractures in her legs, but chose to hike the Reaper anyway.
Kind of hurts standing, but it feels good being here, knowing that I made it back at the squad bay, safe and sound, as a Marine.
Their drill instructor says that they needed to understand that they succeeded.
They did it. They did it. They physically and mentally pushed through the barrier and they made it up. It's going to be the first of several challenges, but when they have those future challenges, they can look back at something they absolutely did not think they could do, and they did it.
The future of female recruits in San Diego is uncertain. This class was still only a test. Congress gave the Marines until 2028 to integrate the West Coast boot camp.
The perfect thing for the Marine Corps right now is to continue this momentum. Like, this group of girls laid the perfect foundation. The perfect foundation to begin this and to continue this.
Though they are officially Marines, this first class will graduate May 6th before a small group of family and friends. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The latest work from NASA's Perseverance rover could make human exploration easier in the future. NASA says the rover just successfully created oxygen on Mars. It made enough oxygen to sustain an astronaut for about 10 minutes by converting the carbon dioxide that's readily available in the atmosphere. And today, NASA's Ingenuity helicopter aced its second test, soaring even higher and longer than before. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.